Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Meeting Gold Show. We've got our second episode inside of this under construction studio that we're building. It's 3,000 square feet in the heart of St. Catharines on 4th Avenue. But we've got a foreigner with us today from Toronto, downtown, grew up, born and raised. We've got, what can I put in front of your name as like a job title? Like, what's your...
I would just say artist because I work at an art gallery. I run events at an art gallery, and I am an artist. I'm an actress, model,
so everything.
Stylist. I've been involved in the entertainment business. I guess entertainer. You could say entertainer too.
Perfect. So we've got Lauren, and how do you say your last name?
Gibson.
Gibson.
The guitars.
Yeah, because your Instagram's Gibby.
Gibby, yeah.
So I was going to say Lauren
Gibby.
Gibby.
You can just call me Gibby. It's way easier. I don't feel like I relate to the name Lauren, but...
Fair. Yeah. Is that a potential, you're going to change the name someday, or?
No. I definitely wouldn't change my last name, though. If I ever got married, I would keep it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows me as Gibby.
That's a hot topic, especially in today's world. Do women change their last name? But that's totally besides the point.
I think it depends on the last name.
True. If it's a bad sounding last name, you're not going to switch the last name, right?
Yeah.
You just got to be brutally honest with your partner.
Yeah,
that's the number one thing.
Yeah.
So we've got Lauren Gibson, Gibby, joining us today. She has racked up a big following on Instagram. You get a lot of good engagement. I was checking your engagement. There's a lot of people with a lot of followers and then no engagement or fake engagement, but you get good engagement. So that's impressive. But Lauren, I found out today that you are an event planner as well.
Yeah, so I've actually been working in the events industry for over a decade. I've done everything from just I started as a brand ambassador, and then I moved into a managerial role, and now I run events at a venue, and I've seen all sides of that business, which is very interesting, dynamic business. Obviously, the pandemic very much affected it. Basically, our industry completely got tanked, and we had to find ways to still run events, virtual events, or pivot into different areas of work in order to stay afloat. And a lot of companies, if they didn't kind of change their direction, they were not able to survive. So it's been a challenging couple of years, but events are back full force now. I think people have been waiting 2 years to get out and do things. So it's
bigger and better than ever, right?
It's really picked up.
Well, and actually, what's cool is a lot of people were saying that as we kind of started to get out of this COVID bubble, which I don't even want to talk about on this podcast, but as we started to get out of it, we're starting to see increase in spending, increase in consumer spending big time, which I'm sure you probably see in the event space, whether it's tickets, alcohol, musicians, that kind of thing, bands, right? Boots and Hearts is I think sold out faster than it's ever sold out before.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I've always wanted to go to that.
You haven't been?
I've been, and I love
all of the things
music.
you go and do, and you haven't been.
I love country music too, but you know what?
So what is your favorite? Is it country music that's your probably favorite?
Not my favorite. I grew up as a rock and roll. My dad was really into rock and roll. I always went to rock concerts with him as a kid, so I was really into rock. I went to the SARS concert actually way back, because that was the first SARS, this is SARS 2, right?
Right.
There was a first SARS.
Yeah.
You're probably too young, you don't remember.
Yeah, no, not a chance.
But it was a wild concert, 500,000 people, AC/DC played, Rolling Stones played. It was insane. And that's how we tried to pick up the economy after the first SARS. And it's so funny, it's such a different approach, 20 years later to SARS 2. But I'm a rocker, a metal, rock and roll.
Is it hardcore metal or...
I like
screaming?
I like both. I actually
really.
I just went to a Slipknot show. I love heavy metal. I just like any music that's heavy. So even in the techno genre, I love just bass music, heavy hitting. I don't if I wanted to chill at home and just listen to relaxing, I would do that. But if I'm going
Beethoven
to a concert,
or something.
If I'm going to a concert, I want to bang my head and just really go hard.
Well, what I love is once I met you, I literally just met you 10 minutes ago, but we've been talking for quite some time over DMs and just kind of getting this sorted out, and I canceled on you so many times, which I apologize for, but you were super flexible. it shines your personality on the music that you like. And that's what kind of why I wanted to ask you, what kind of music do you like? Because it shows a little bit of who you are, and I can kind of see that you're more outgoing, the way that you present yourself on social media, very outgoing. Yeah. Where did was that like a developed trait for you growing up? Were you very inside?
The journey to Go Hard Gibby.
Go Hard Gibby.
Go Hard Gibby. That's actually, shameless plug, that's my fitness account.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. All you.
Yeah, so Go Hard Gibby, like, she started very shy. Like, when I was a kid, I was extremely tall. I was a little bit awkward. I had braces. I even had the headgear. Like, it wasn't always cute. It definitely was not cute for, like, a good...
Wait, because back when you were a kid, no, I'm not calling you old, but
the braces,
the braces and the helmet.
We didn't have Invisalign. So, like, Invisalign's a new thing, which... I feel like now kids don't even have to go through that awkward stage and develop their personalities anymore, which I had to do. I was very shy and very just like, I was very studious. I was very into my academics, and I was really sporty and kind of artsy too. So like, I was just into my extracurriculars. I didn't have time for a social life. And then, you know, no one asked me to prom. Like, I went to prom by myself.
Really, eh?
Like, I was dorky.
I wouldn't have even gone if I didn't have a date to prom.
No one asked me. I went with, like, my friend.
Oh, there you go.
Whatever. We're going as single gals. But, yeah, and I was just like, you know, I think when I got to university, I was like, okay, I'm going to try and reinvent myself a little bit. And I probably swung a little bit too far to the party girl side. And now I'm like back in a little bit of mix of both.
Business Gibby.
Yeah, I've made a business out of the fun side of my life, which is like doing the events. But I also, you know, I still have to be serious sometimes. I've started my own business as well. I'm making clothing and athletic wear. So that side of my life is very like, I have to be strict with myself, which is, I have to get back into that old like high school Lauren.
Yeah.
It's like in the library every lunch, you know?
Well, you know what's interesting is like in the event space, you mentioned like you're utilizing your old Gibby, I guess, in like planning. Because at the end of the day, an event planner is somebody who has the most fun at a party, who will drop down and do any dance move on the planet in front of, 300 people, but they're also the people that are very business minded and can actually plan. I mean, we're trying to plan an event for like clients for 100 people here, and it's very much over my head. In fact, I'm not even doing it, my team's doing it, because it's very like intricate. You have to think, band, okay, what kind of music do they play? Okay, now food, what kind of food? What vibe do we want that food to give? Do we have alcohol? What kind of alcohol? Is it more bougie? Is it like wine? Or is it beers? Or it's so, like the amount of planning and understanding that you have to have in emotional intelligence is fascinating. So I'm glad that you kind of told me today that that's what you get into. Let's talk about that a little bit more in depth.
I feel like with event planning, you have to be very detail oriented in the prep. But I feel like the real key to events is like in the moment at the event, because I've never actually worked an event where everything goes to plan. It's always like the ability to pivot, be flexible. And it's funny you said I was flexible in making this meeting here. Like I feel like my life has been a lesson in how to be flexible. A lot of things in my life did not work out to plan.
Yep.
That's for sure. So, you're always just trying to make the best of a bad situation, or pivot, or, twirl around and, deke something out, whatever.
I know what you're saying, though. I know what you mean, yeah.
It's kind of a dance, you know what I mean? It's not like you can plan the dance, you can do the choreography and have everything set out, but like, maybe a light falls on the stage and you got to, deke around that light, right?
Yeah.
So that's always kind of the way events go. And that is a skill that you do not like learn unless you just do it. That's an experience thing.
So where did you kind of realize that you just had to do something and then hope for the best? Because I think a lot of people they like take 2 steps back and don't take 3 steps forward because they're just so afraid.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people now, especially with social media, I think that a lot of people are afraid of messing up. And I actually used to be a like camp counselor and water ski instructor, and I used to do stunt water ski shows up in Muskoka, and I lived in Florida. Remember I was telling you I lived in Florida?
Yeah, which I'm very envious of.
Yeah, it was a short time. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, I think in being an instructor, and especially working at a camp with young kids or working at a resort, I kind of learned how to teach people to like take risks. And obviously like doing stunt shows it's like the riskiest thing you can do. I've broken like every bone in my body.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, I broke 2 more bones last year. So like now I think I'm at 10 broken bones, and I've like dislocated
What's
my
the
shoulder.
worst bone you've broken?
This most recent injury is the worst injury I've ever had. I had to have 2 surgeries. I had a spiral fracture of my arm and a dislocated hand.
Ooh,
Yeah,
how'd that happen?
It actually wasn't really doing a sport while I was sprinting. I was like full speed sprinting with my dog, and my dog tripped me. And
Wow, so you're very
yeah.
fragile.
I'm not that fragile, but this was like high impact. Like
Right.
they were literally studying me at the hospital because they were like, they'd never seen like a bone break like this.
So you have been really just involved in the creative space. Like I know you from the research I did just on like going on your social media, but like you don't get a lot out of people when you see their social media because there's a lot of things that are like hidden. So it's interesting to hear that. What like started this creative journey? You went to, you said Queens, you went for like political science. You were very like, can I say bookwormy kind of?
Yeah, I was bookwormy. So in school, I studied political science and film. Like film was like the artsiest thing I could really do at Queens.
And did you love the film there?
I didn't love necessarily my course there.
Right.
But like I did love the film industry. I love the people I met. I worked in the film industry. I worked in wardrobe for a while in film. I did some acting. I did like the general PA work you did. And honestly, I feel like film sets is another place where like you make mistakes and you learn them the hard way, because if you make a mistake on a film set, like it affects everyone and people will get really mad at you. So it's actually a really scary place to make any mistakes. But obviously, like, things will happen. And same thing with, you know, a sport. Like, when I was teaching kids to water ski, kids would be so scared just even to get in the water, right? Just getting over that. I'm like, what's the worst thing that can happen? You're going to fall. Do you know how many times I've fallen? Like,
yeah.
Literally, I've fallen a million times. I've broken so many bones. And, like, it's always like, what's the worst that can happen? And I think it's always worse if you don't do something. I always regret the things I didn't do way more than the things that I did and I fell on my face. Even if I had to get stitches or, you know, had a crazy injury, at least I got the good story to tell, you know?
Yeah.
You don't have fun stories unless you take risks.
And that's the number one thing is you love it, right? And if it's so hard to think about life or even like 3 months from now, like something like we were working on the one light. I'll be honest, we were working on the one light, and Esther's gonna laugh, but like I didn't have this little yellow thing, and I was getting pissed about it. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like this is the second one I've lost in a month." And then it's like, "Am I gonna remember this a week from now?" No, because I'll just buy one for $25 and I'll forget about it. Yeah. So what's the big deal? And I think if you can translate that into life, that's big. For you getting into the art industry, I want to start to unpack like everything that you kind of learn through doing so, because you do a lot: event planning, modeling, acting. Those are very different. A lot of people just think, oh, you're just like like artsy and you do everything. Well, no, because acting and modeling are very different things.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I started in modeling. Like I started when I was pretty young. Like I got discovered when I was like 15 in New York. I started modeling when I was like 16, 17. Took a break when I went to university, came back at it. I had 2 experiences with it. Like I had the more like intense runway experience when I was a teenager, and then I had the commercial side of it, which then kind of led me into acting, which is similar to more commercial modeling. But obviously, like when you're an actor, you have to also roll with the punches. You know what I mean? So you can memorize your script and memorize your lines, but things always change on set. It's never exactly how you planned it. And I feel like these are skills that like people, you know, you can go to school, and I've done a lot of school, but like I never really learned that much. I don't want to say this, I feel bad.
No, I'm with you. I
didn't learn that much in school. I learned so much more just from making mistakes, falling on my face, you know, doing things and living that experience. It's interesting. My brother actually, he's doing his PhD in education.
Really? So you guys are like polar opposites. You must be.
My brother's an academic, but he's a philosopher. He did the philosophy of education. Like he did his thesis on philosophy of education versus experience. And it's very interesting to learn. Some people learn really, really well in a school environment, and some people learn really well out in the school of hard knocks, like doing things. And you have to figure out what works for you. And obviously like a mix of both is probably the way most people are going to learn. But Yeah, like I really do believe that we need to maybe take a different approach to education with a lot of kids. Like I was a kid with ADHD, never knew I had ADHD till I was like out of university. Had I known, I feel like it would have been a lot
You would have
easier.
known, yeah.
I wouldn't have struggled so much, but I still like did well, so it was fine. But like, I mean,
it's a whole other,
I think a lot of kids have ADHD now, and they'll learn a lot better through experience. And I think that our culture also fosters that kind of mindset of having ADHD because we have devices that are constantly distracting us, and we have TV, and you know, apparently we see, I forget what the statistic is, but we see like a certain number of ads per minute or something, or per day.
I would be scared to hear that statistic.
It's crazy. So like you're influenced by all those things. How are you supposed to focus if you already struggle to focus?
Our life is literally a living consumption of information, and that's a positive and negative thing. It's positive, a conversation like this, learning from one another. It's negative. I'm biting myself in the butt here. It's negative when we throw an ad in. It's not that it's negative. It can be positive. But like, people have to understand there's differences of like, you know, monetizing something. You can monetize anything. Really, if somebody's smart enough, you can monetize anything you want. Who thought 300 years ago that somebody could get paid to get their pictures taken in an outfit? Who would have thought that? Or walk down a runway, or have more numbers than somebody else on a social media platform? Seriously, who would have thought?
TikTok.
Or make a TikTok.
TikTok dancing.
So, Lauren, talking about social media, it's very obvious the big elephant in the room is that you do well at social media.
Honestly, you know what's so funny about social media for me is that I don't actually think I'm that good at it, and I hate doing it.
You don't like social media, do you?
I don't like creating content. Like, I'm really good at creating the content. I'm not good at editing the content. When I was in school, I loved filming. I loved film class. I loved creating the films. But if you wanted me to sit in the editing room, no, I hate the editing. It's so tedious. I'm sure you understand. It's like,
it is. And that was the first step in my business, was hire somebody that actually enjoys it. Like
some people love it. Like, I remember I had a friend who, she's now an editor, and she's doing really well in the film industry, and she loved it. She just loved sitting there. And there are times when like I actually don't mind it, but it's hard as someone with ADHD to like get into it, to just sit down and like start the process. But once I've started, I'm like, okay, it's not that bad.
That's where I'm at too. Yeah. It's like now we have like people that are like genuinely, like they actually have a passion. Shout out to Johnny and Kevin, have a passion for editing. But like for people like me and you, it's like, it's like the squirrel from Over the Hedge. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but she's like psycho. That's like, you just can't sit still.
It's just tedious. And like, I know that if I just like force myself to sit down and do it for the first 10 minutes, I can usually get through it. But I have really bad eyesight. So also like sometimes I'm looking at my phone.
Really?
And I'm like trying to, and my eyes get tired. So honestly, those blue light glasses, like
clutch,
those have been clutch. But yeah, social media is a weird one. I got into the Instagram game really early. I was on this thing called the Roxy Style Squad way back.
Okay.
It was just like a thing where there was a community of girls around the world, and we would review Roxy products. They would send us things, and we would kind of review them. And so it kind of was like a natural progression into brand ambassadorship. And I got Instagram when it like first started. It was very like new, and I didn't really know how to use it at all. And that's what got me into it. And then TikTok is a fully new one for me. I got TikTok. I had like 100 followers for like the longest time. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to do the dances. I not really like, I've done dancing. I did dance as I was growing up.
Yeah.
I did go-go dancing for a bit until all these injuries kind of caught up with me. But I'm not like a full-on dancer. So like the dances were fun and like whatever is cool. But like I feel like it wasn't really me. It was just me like copying other people's dances. I feel like I didn't do well on TikTok until I was just like literally honestly myself. And my one TikTok that blew up, it's so funny because I didn't know, because I don't check TikTok that often. I didn't check it for like a month. And then a month later, I went from 100 followers to like 38,000 followers on TikTok. And I was like, what? And I look at this one video, it's got almost 1 million views. And I'm like, what? And it's the stupidest video. It's not even a video I would ever think would get that many views. It's a video about me talking about how I had construction workers on the balcony of my patio of my condo, and because I'm so blind, I have such poor vision, I hadn't put my contact lenses in yet. So I was walking around my place naked, windows open, like no, not a care in the world. And I'm explaining this to the viewers, and I'm like trying to,
you put them on, and then there's guys there.
And I look over and I just see like the orange, like vests that they wear. And I'm like, oh my God. And they were all laughing. And so I told that story, and people, I guess, found it really funny. I think on social media, people enjoy watching. It's so funny. It comes back to what I was saying before. People enjoy watching your mistakes. So like the idea of being scared to make a mistake is stupid, because even if you make a mistake, people are probably going to find it entertaining. I think I've made most of my life from just people being entertained by my bad luck and mishaps. You know what I mean? Like I've had a lot of mishaps, like.
We don't. We could get into those.
I feel like I shouldn't get too close to you. I don't want the bad luck to rub off on you. But yeah, I've had like a lot of crazy.
I know what you mean though, with the raw, just the raw talent in everybody. Everybody has a talent, right?
Yeah.
There are some videos on TikTok where it's like this guy dancing in a mirror, and I hope I don't get canceled for this. I don't judge anybody, like. But, like the guy, like, clearly doesn't brush his teeth, or maybe has something up with his teeth, and they're all, like, crooked, and he's just, like, dancing in the mirror. It's, like, a 3-second video, and it's got, like, 7 million likes. I'm literally thinking of this one video, and he became, like, this big thing, and kudos to him, because, like, now he's got, like, a massive following and, like, makes a lot of money doing it.
But that's his niche. And what's so funny? I have a friend, and she actually runs, like, a social media company now. Shameless plug, Chanel Garrow.
Go for it.
Social Lens Media. And what she said, one of her tips for every video she makes a slight error. Like she messes something up on purpose.
Really?
Because especially on TikTok has
they hate you.
There's so many haters.
It's
but
brutal.
Like she doesn't care, because even like the one little thing that she messes up, like, or usually it just happens, like usually something will just be like a slightly messed up in her video, or it's just not quite perfect. And she keeps it that way because there's so many people on TikTok who just want to point it out, and she doesn't care because they all comment about that one thing, and then her engagement goes up. So it's like this idea that we have to be perfect all the time, which I feel like is such a difficult idea that people struggle with because they're comparing themselves to the highlight reel on social media.
Yeah.
You do not have to be perfect. Like the thing that makes you imperfect is probably the thing that makes you likable. You know what I mean? Because
you're oh my God, approachable.
Yeah,
that's the word.
Because you ever see one of those girls and they're so insanely perfect, and there's tons of them on Instagram, and it's like, well, I can't really relate to that person because like she's too perfect. She's a Barbie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then if you have someone who's like, okay, they have great moments, but then they also have some down moments. People can relate to that,
So, as a model, and I don't, like, how much of modeling is like? I can see your social media still do a decent amount of modeling.
Yeah,
is
I'm
that still a big
model.
chunk of like? I use the word like paying the bills. Like, is that like a good chunk of?
It does still pay the bills here and there. Modeling is a really strange industry because it's changed so much since I started. So I'm gonna date myself, but I honestly, when I started modeling, it was still, you had to be really tall like I am. You had to be really a small size. Even me, and I was a lot smaller than I am now. Like my agency told me like, stop doing sports. You're too muscular. You need to just walk around and do Pilates. Like super toxic way of thinking. And it was still very pervasive back then to be like that tall, skinny, like frail looking model. Yeah. And now, luckily, I feel like the modeling industry has really changed and it's become way more inclusive, and we're showing different sizes and we're showing lots of different ways of modeling, which is great for me because I've been able to continue modeling, because most models back in the old days, you would have just been expired at 24. So
yeah, that's crazy. I like to think about that.
Yeah, now they're actually having models that are older, like I am, and they're having models that are, different sizes and different body types, and I love that. But the modeling industry is really hard because it's like any industry. Most industries are oversaturated, and now because there's less barriers to entry, there's just like so many people who want to do it. And for me, I mean, I do it here and there to pay some bills for sure, but I much prefer like acting. I much prefer
I hear
something
ya.
where I can really like sink my teeth into it and have a lot of fun
Yeah.
and you know, play a character. Obviously modeling, you are playing a character too, and I think that's what I love is just like being able to be a different person.
Wait, sorry, just real quick. I'm curious about that. Like obviously acting, you're playing somebody else. Modeling, how does that equate to acting? If it does.
I feel like either way, you're delivering a message, right? So you're delivering a vibe, a message, whatever it is, and you're doing that through your poses or the way you're moving, and like it's the same thing with acting. You know, you're delivering a message, and sometimes with modeling, maybe you have a little bit more creativity, whereas acting, it's like, okay, this is what you're doing. These are your this is your back to ones, like this is your one, this is your two. Whereas modeling, like sometimes there's a little bit more freedom to play around, but I mean, they're similar, but they're different.
So I'm curious because this is a learning point for me. Coming from somebody who has done so many photo shoots and has probably worked with so many different photographers because like you work with this brand, then you work with that brand, and they all have different people and whatever. I want to know, what does a photographer do to make you feel like you probably, if I asked you, who's the best photographer you've worked with, you probably think of somebody. What did they do to make you feel comfortable and just like you?
It's different every time. Like I feel like it's obviously like it's good when you have like that rapport with them. Like there's a couple photographers where I've shot with them like multiple times and I already know like what their shooting style is, but everyone is different, and I feel like it's just again goes back to being able to be flexible enough to see, okay, this is the way that this photographer shoots, so this is the way that I'm going to work. I like when a photographer is giving me direction and telling me, okay, turn your head this way or whatever. Some photographers don't give you any direction and you've just got to figure it out yourself. That can also work. It depends. But like, I really like when photographers communicate a lot, like, because obviously
Talking, hype, motivation.
I mean, I'm like seasoned now, so I can kind of like see what they're doing and kind of interpret like how the shot's gonna look just because I've done it so much. But like, if you're a model starting out, I think it's great when photographers are pretty communicative, being like, okay, turn your head this way, or like the light's that way, like keep turning in this direction or whatever.
And is it words like using adjectives, that kind of thing?
Yeah,
verbs.
I like when people are talking, because obviously, like, unless there's like music on, which hopefully they put some music.
It's
on
awkward.
Too. It is awkward because, you know, like someone's looking at you and they're basically just like finding the best way to make you look good.
Yeah.
And you know that in doing that, they're like analyzing all your flaws and then trying to like position them.
Yep. So you don't see them.
Yeah, and like sometimes photographers are super like blatant and they'll just point them out and be like, okay, well, I'm trying to hide your chin like this or whatever. And then if you were not like flexible as a model, or you were like offended easily, that would maybe be a problem.
So as a model, like to young people, like, I want to be a model. I want to walk Victoria's Secret.
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, I think it's honestly, I do think it is a great industry to be in, to kind of like learn about yourself more. I feel like it forced me to like develop my confidence. Obviously, coming as someone who was super shy and kind of quiet, it forced me to be a lot more outgoing and a lot more like flexible, like I said. But it's a tough industry. Like, there's no way that it's not going to sometimes get to you. And like, when you get really excited about a job and maybe you go back for a second callback and you think you're for sure going to get the job and then you don't get it. But that's like any industry, you know, you could go for 2 interviews at any job and then not get the job. Or it's also just a lot of legwork. I mean, you have an agent, hopefully, or sometimes you are also freelancing on the side. Like, I've done a lot of freelance on the side of
I bet it, like, just a lot of like side jobs and that kind of thing.
It's a lot of like admin. Like, it sounds silly, but like there is a lot of admin because you have to keep track of your jobs, and sometimes people don't pay you for a long time, and you can't lose track, because then you may have to ask them like, where's my payment, or you know what I mean? So then there's like invoicing, and it's not like, you know, you punch in, punch out, and you're on a payroll. Like, there's a lot more involved in terms of just being organized.
Yeah.
So like, it is tough in that sense, but right now is a great time to be a model because there's really like a job for everyone, and it's not as exclusive as it used to be. And I think that that's like the beauty of.
That's true. I mean, back in the day, I'm acting like I'm 50, but it was very secluded to like one body type, even one skin color, one culture, all of that. And now, I mean, we see like models like so many different types of people, and I think it allows people to feel more inclusive in what they're doing. I think there's a lot of opinions and stuff, and people are, everybody's opinions is valid, but I think like allowing people to feel more included inside of, clothing that for a brand is actually smart. Forget is it woke enough, or is it cultured enough, or is it proper enough? It's actually smart marketing to allow for every body type to be on an ad. Why? Because do you just want, skinny 26-year-olds buying your merch?
And
no,
they don't
because
have the money to buy.
Exactly. Like, so it's like if you broke down the smart marketing behind it, it's actually way better to market all body types to showcase that you can do all of that. What was a transition like for you now, modeling, acting, that kind of thing, to getting into event planning? Because it sounds like that was kind of your path.
Yeah, I mean, like I did the events on the side because obviously like with modeling and acting, like sometimes you're busy, like sometimes you have a busy month and you're getting lots of work, and then sometimes you audition a bunch and you're not getting any work and you're like freaking out, like how am I going to pay my bills? So obviously the events was like a good way to supplement my income, and then I just got really into it and I loved it. I worked in bars and things too, on like I was a server, hostess, all that. And I just enjoy. I'm a people person, which is very funny because like I started off
really shy,
shy and quiet, but this was always in me. I would just always felt like people didn't want to hear from me. And then once I built my confidence, I was like, oh, wow, I really am. I like talking to random people. Now I'm like that crazy person who walks down the street and talks to random people everywhere I go, which during COVID, people were like, why? But like, I mean, I have a dog, so I usually have an excuse to talk to people.
There you go.
But yeah, like, I think that it's like things have changed a lot in the past 10 years since I, started in events. But the events market is booming. Like I would recommend anyone get into it because you might get into working events just on the ground floor, just, as a brand ambassador or whatever. But then you might find that, oh, I really love logistics. Or I really love like, now I want to work at music festivals, or I really want to, or maybe you get into like the technical side and you start speaking to like the people who are doing the lighting. And then maybe you get into like the IATSE union and you start working on, lighting for films and events and things like that. Like there's just like so many different like venue or
moving parts,
avenues that you can go from just starting.
It's like, and I feel like it's boring on this podcast now because I've had so many of them on, but I still obviously will, is like real estate. Like there's so many jobs that come out of real estate. Video marketing, photo marketing. You could have a separate video guy, separate photo guy, separate guy for floor plans, 3D plans. Obviously the agent, you've got your clients, you've got builders, there's so many different moving parts. And it's interesting when I started to plan my own event thinking, oh, easy. You would think when you are planning an event, even with a smaller budget of like $3 or $4 grand, you want to maximize those dollars. Like I'm contacting people for like balloons. I'm like, oh, I want balloons. Oh, I got to find a balloon person.
Yeah.
All those things. So where did you just learn from just doing events?
Yeah, I think so.
Really, eh?
Yeah.
So was there like things that you would forget and then like?
Yeah, like I said, like lots of mistakes. Like I honestly feel like you learn more from your mistakes than like the good days. I feel like the bad days are like the things you remember because you're like, oh God, I remember when I messed this up. Like I literally worked an event a couple days ago and we ended up breaking, like we broke one of the parts of the whole setup.
Right.
And we were like, oh, I should have remembered from the last time I worked an event where we slightly broke something that, just go slower with the tear down. Like we don't need to rush this whole situation. And the thing is like you learn those lessons and then you generally don't forget them. I mean, sometimes it takes a couple times like that situation.
Oh, 100%. So Lauren, we're kind of wrapping up today's podcast. I want to ask you one last question. Any advice, the best advice that you've been given and the best advice that you could give to somebody?
Oh, okay. This one's a little bit hard.
I can let you think about it.
Give me a minute.
We'll have to add that music in. Producer Johnny, let's go.
Okay.
Even if it was like younger.
I think it's gonna sound so cheesy.
No, go for it. Yeah.
I think some of the best advice that I've been given is to be myself, because there's no one else like you. And like I was saying before, you know, that thing that makes you like flawed, maybe the thing that people relate to, you know what I mean? So I feel like so many people out there, especially now, are trying to like compare themselves and be someone else and be like the version of themselves that they think is acceptable to the world, or the version of themselves that they feel comfortable putting out there. But when you're truly yourself, that's when the magic happens. Like that is really when, you know, like the stupid TikTok of you, you know.
You're talking about walking naked in an apartment with construction guys watching you.
Exactly. The stupid TikTok that I wasn't even going to post. I was just like, oh, whatever. Like, I'll just post this. And then I turned off my phone for a month and didn't even think about it. And then, you know?
Yeah.
So those are the magic moments. But if you're not being yourself, then you probably will miss out on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I hear you.
So that was probably the best advice I've been given. And it's, don't get me wrong, like I was given that advice years ago, and I definitely put on lots of different masks and lots of different faces and was not myself for a very long time. And I just felt like, what's the word for it? Is it imposter syndrome?
I think, yes, I think that's where you're going with it, yeah.
Like, and I felt like that all the time, because I just felt like, oh, I'm trying to be this person and I'm not even succeeding at being this other person. And then it's like when you're try to just be yourself, that's when you're successful. So that's the one that someone else has given me. And then the advice that I would give is don't be afraid to make mistakes. Jump off the top diving
Big
board.
time.
Go for it. Take the risk. Like, no fear. Like, honestly, no fear. Always.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And I think like what's cool is you can talk about that experience because of event planning and because of everything else that you've done, modeling, acting, all that stuff. You really understand what it means to like just throw in and see where it goes.
I had this friend, and like everything we would do, he would go, "Why not?" And I'd be like, "You're so annoying." Like,
I know, because it's like they're right, but it's like you just got to make that jump.
Yeah, it's like, why not? So it's always like, what's the worst that could happen? Probably like not that bad. Trust me, some bad things have happened to me, you know, and I'm still somehow standing. So, you know.
Well, listen, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody, your Instagram handle is what again?
L_Gibby. It's kind of annoying with that underscore, but L_Gibby. L Gibby.
Gibby. Make sure the Gibby's easy to remember. But if you look up like L_, it'll probably come up. But anyways, besides the point, Lauren, thank you for joining us. That's where you can find her. Feel free to reach out, message her. I'm sure she'd totally down for some model photo shoots, acting, whatever, if you got a short film.
Or just like if you want to tell me jokes. I like
that works too. I'm sure she gets like some really funny DMs. So
I love my DMs.
Well, with that being said, everybody, thank you for listening and watching. Make sure to comment down below questions that you want to ask other golden guests such as Lauren Gibson here in this chair today. Thank you for listening and watching. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye. Thank you for listening to this week's Golden Guest on the Meeting Gold podcast. If you learned something from today's episode, make sure to check out our other content on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, make sure to leave us a follow while you're there. Thanks, and have a golden day.